listening to Ken Hudnall. This is the Ken Hudnall Show. Coming to you from our studios right here in exciting El Paso, Texas. Gateway to the Old West and the most haunted city in the country. Well, today is August the 20th. This year is just shooting by. It's the 232nd day of the year. 133 days remain of the year is over with. Holidays and observances. It's National Bacon Lovers Day. National Radio Day. Don't forget, with radio, you can hear stories and music and news and voices from all over the world. World Mosquito Day. Slap a Few Day. International Hawaiian Pizza Day. It's a delightful combination of ham and pineapple and cheese and culinary harmony that tantalizes the taste buds. It's also National Chocolate Pecan Pie Day. Only thing better than pecan pie is pecan pie with chocolate. International Day of Medical Transporters. The men and women that get the sick or injured where they get help. National Accessible Air Travel Day. National Finance Brokers Day. Crayfish Party. National Fishing Month. Sarajevo Film Festival. Now, we've talked about that several times. It's the Southeast Europe's largest and most vibrant film event. Every year it transforms the city into a lively hub, drawing filmmakers and actors and movie enthusiasts from around the globe. Known for its warm, welcoming atmosphere, the festival offers a space where the local and international cinema can blend seamlessly. And of course, we got Navasard and National Aviation Week ends on the 25th. Famous people born on this date: Amy Adams, Demi Lovato, H.P. Lovecraft, and Andrew Garfield. Well, all that having been said, let's see what the story is with what's in the news. You know, this is a time of a lot of events taking place. So there's always interesting stories. Now, one story that's being discussed is the border walls getting hot upgrades. There's a interesting deterrent feature that Christy Noem has been discussing. Been a new layer added to the border wall strategy. The entire southern border wall is going to be painted black as part of the Trump administration's efforts to increase the effectiveness of the wall. When you watch people just crawl over it, well, if it's painted black in this part of the country, it's going to really absorb the heat. We'll see if they still climb over it when it's hot enough to fry an egg. Well, the Supreme Court's most interesting justice has left a crowd puzzled. She's teasing a new memoir. During an abrupt conference exit, she spoke to hundreds at the Seventh Circuit Judicial Conference before dashing out the door. Spoke for just 3 minutes, which is very unusual for one of God's anointed who thinks everyone hangs on their every word. Well, Memphis has long been known as the homicide capital of the country. And now there's a police push. Tennessee Highway Patrol Task Force has boosted arrest, visibility, and crime fighting as Memphis sets out once and for all to put an end to this silliness. You know, George Soros has funded a lot of district attorney elections on the understanding that they don't do anything. They just stand around. They have a revolving door at the police station. But now there are helicopters and police SUVs fanning out through the neighborhoods. Spotlights cut across dark yards searching for the suspects. The trees that are given cover to suspects aren't being defeated by the darkness. The aviation units are honing in on their suspects. Well, there's footage that shows a blue state prosecutor telling officers they'll regret arresting her. She's an attorney general. We're talking about the Rhode Island attorney general. The Attorney General office says it's reviewing the arrest of Special Assistant Attorney General Devin Flanagan. She's caught on tape pleading with officers not to arrest her and trying to use her job as a state prosecutor to get officers to let her go. She's heard telling them she's an AG. They detained her for failing to comply with their demands. She said, "You're going to regret this. You're going to regret it. I'm an attorney general." And she was escorted to the back of a police car and locked in. One of the arresting officers was heard at one point saying, "Good for you. I don't give an S." Well, one of the victims in the Cincinnati beatdown has now been arrested. There we go. Unidentified 45-year-old white man faces disorderly conduct charges for that July 26th downtown melee. There's no question he's been identified as one of the victims in that brawl that left several people injured last month. He is charged with disorderly conduct, a fourth-degree misdemeanor. Police said his status as a victim in the beating prevents him from releasing his name under Marsy's Law, which gives crime victims the option to have their names withheld from public release. Well, L.A. Mayor Bass has now caved into federal pressure as the Palisades fire victims wait for information. She's delayed the Palisades fire report at the DOJ's request. City officials anticipate lawsuits tied to a response with legal and financial consequences for L.A. According to Bass, the delays are solely a result of the Attorney General's office requesting the L.A. city leaders postpone its release as the BATF&E continues its investigation. Of course, some community groups have criticized that delay, arguing that the residents deserve answers about the city's response even as the federal probe continues. And I'm sure what they're doing is figuring out a way that anybody who was discovered as being involved in setting the fires get a pass. I mean, that's how L.A. works. Well, there is a interesting video showing a baseball fan working on a laptop during the Cubs' win over the Brewers. The fan was sitting in the Wrigley Field bleachers, working away on the laptop, which is a little unusual. If you're spending money to go to a ball game, you usually watch it. Well, Trump had a hot mic moment, whispered the crazy Putin deal theory to Macron. His comments came during a Monday meeting with European leaders as he tries to secure a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. And of course, a lot of the stars have come out attacking President Trump again. one of the biggest mouths and somebody who really needs to go find a job is Star Wars icon Hamill. He is reveals he actually considered leaving the U.S. when President Trump won re-election. He said his wife convinced him not to let President Trump force him out of his own country. Part of the problem is, since he is a star, he's actually believes his own PR. It's absolutely unbelievable. But there you go. Okay, he's known for playing Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars films. And in the Batman adaptations, he gives the voice to the Joker. And he's one of Hollywood's most outspoken liberal actors. According to the Times contributing editor Matt Rudd, today he fights for freedom, not with a lightsaber, but with a keyboard. Now, I wish he would just do it quietly. Well, Kohlberger's prosecutor reveals a crucial moment. Jeff Nye argued successfully the FBI's genetic genealogy work didn't violate the Fourth Amendment rights. The entire case against Kohlberger depended on convincing a judge to allow controversial DNA evidence to stand, despite the fact the FBI violated its own policy in order to obtain it. Kohlberger. I'm responding to an email wanting to know why I sound louder today. Well, I had some complaints that my voice was too soft, so I've upgraded the equipment. And apparently, it has been a successful transition. It does take a little getting used to the new equipment. I'm also using new software. Well, Hurricane Aaron is still causing issues. It's closed beaches from Florida to New York, unleashed monster waves and rip currents, and caused unbelievable erosion. Well, we have got an interesting story about radioactive food that's being investigated by the FDA. Radioactive shrimp bound for Walmart's been detected at major U.S. ports. They issued a do not eat or sell advisory, recommended Walmart recall all that seafood. We'll see if they do. Okay, a number of former Obama officials, 37 of them, have had their security clearances revoked because they politicized intelligence. Among those is former Obama administration Director of National Intelligence James Clapper. They created the Russiagate hoax. Tulsi Gabbard, the current Director of National Intelligence, announced her office had stripped security clearances from 37 current and former intelligence officials. The included the names of the officials who worked at the CIA and the NSA and the State Department and National Security Council. The Gabbard claimed Clapper had told the other officials to compromise normal procedures in regard to a 2017 intelligence community assessment related to Russia's influence, allegedly, on the 2016 election. They poured out all the stops to try to beat him, but they couldn't do it. All in the name of the unbelievable Hillary Clinton. Well, Hannity did quite a spiel about what he called peace through strength. He said, thanks to Trump, the world has a chance at peace. In Yosemite National Park, ranger reported it was fired after he draped a massive trans pride flag across El Capitan. He did it to protest the Trump administration. You don't attack the person you're working for. I mean, give me a break. Shannon S.J. Jocelyn, 35 years old, wrote an Instagram post Monday claiming to have been fired from the park for practicing his First Amendment right, hung a 55-foot by 35-foot flag across Yosemite's iconic rock destination in May. Jocelyn is non-binary, uses they-them pronouns, said to raise the flag off duty as a private citizen. Said he was fired by the temporary deputy superintendent for failing to demonstrate acceptable conduct in his capacity as a wildlife biologist for the park. Said no part of hanging that flag was done on work time. Nothing had anything to do with the work. No, just defaced the national monument, but that's okay. I mean, as long as you're non-binary, the rules don't apply to you. Well, The View's at it again. The Melania Trump sent Putin a letter asking him to help save the kids, and Ana Navarro, a co-host, ripped the letter as so hypocritical you can't believe it. The First Lady called on the Russian president to embrace peace on behalf of protecting innocent children. And according to Ana Navarro, falls under the category of stuff so hypocritical you can't believe it. Now, I think a lot of what the View does is so hypocritical you can't believe it. But that's just me. Well, there's a new law in Washington state requiring child abuse confessions to priests to be reported. And the Catholic Church is going to excommunicate priests who follow that law. According to the Archdiocese of Seattle, Catholic clergy may not violate the seal of confession, will be excommunicated from the church. So you got a situation where you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Well, President Trump is rallying around Texas Republicans to pass new maps. And California is said they're going to do it in order to offset any gains that the Republicans make in Texas. Can you say gamesmanship with a straight face? Well, a Boston news anchor has filed a lawsuit. She's with the Boston CBS affiliate. Says white employees are targeted under a corporate DEI push. Kate Merrill says a CBS affiliate took career-ending action against her after a confrontation with a black meteorologist. In this day and time, if you're white, you're an endangered species. If you're a minority, you got the world on a string. Well, the Fox Nation is now exploring the mystery that turned a small town into a spectacle. The Mothman, who some say is an omen or a harbinger of doom. Well, Abby Hornacek is investigating the Mothman legend, still draws thousands of people to Point Pleasant, West Virginia every year. John Keel did an interesting review. I've read the book several times. It's fascinating. Well, as I said in an earlier story, Bindi Irwin has had a number of surgeries to remove chocolate cyst after years of pain. Well, parents are outraged as a school has punished some boys for being upset about a trans student using the boys' restroom, or the locker room, rather. If you have to remember, trans have more rights than anyone else. And that's something you need to keep in mind. In our crazy world, if you're different, you can do as you please. Well, let's see. Well, there is a incident caught on camera of a man punching a woman during a packed concert. According to the band's response, they were left heartbroken. Nobody did anything about it, but there, go figure. Well, a couple of YouTubers were filming a food review when a car came through the window where they were sitting. They had to dive for cover as the vehicle exploded through the restaurant. Nina Santiago and Patrick Blackwood were hospitalized after glass shards rained down on them during the brunch filming. One moment they were savoring salmon sliders for a YouTube review. The next moment they were running for their lives as an SUV exploded through the front window of a Houston, Texas brunch spot. It was at Kubi's Culinary Creations in Houston. They placed Saturday. They were sampling an array of brunch delicacies when this SUV just plowed into the restaurant. The waitstaff, of course, was stunned. Well, somebody I occasionally saw that I thought was quite worth watching was in the TV show Saved by the Bell. Thyssen, former teen idol, goes topless for a dessert post as fans say they are marveling at her ageless beauty. Well, if she was naked on camera, she could be 117, and they'd say that she's got an ageless beauty. All righty, let's see what else we got. You know, we have been talking about quite a number of topics in our various shows about haunted castles. We've been talking about a number of haunted locations in our last few shows. We're going to start out with Eltz, ELTZ Castle in Würzburg, Germany. Once home to a young lady named Agnes Eltz. Daughter among a lot of sons, grew up around the 16th century, pretending to be a warrior with her brothers rather than a princess. But like a lot of girls her age and status, she was destined for an arranged marriage from a very young age. Her parents' spouse of choice was the Knight of Braunsberg. Pair met several times, but the young girl dismissed him as boring and actually ignored him. One day, infuriated by her lack of interest, he grabbed her and forced himself on her. Outraged, she pushed him away and slapped him in the face. A great embarrassment for her family. Well, the knight's patience has worn a little thin, as you might guess, and her slap pushed him over the edge. He stormed out of the castle, vowing revenge for what he considered to be disrespectful behavior. For months, the family lived in fear of an attack. Didn't come. Lulled into a sense of security, the Family resumed their usual lives. But the knight hadn't forgotten. For months, he stewed in his resentment, plotting how to take revenge for the slight by Agnes. And one day, the Eltzmen went out hunting. Bronsberg and his soldiers stormed the castle, killed the guardsmen, attacked anybody in sight. Agnes, more the brave soldier than a fragile maiden, jumped into action, put on her brother's suit of armor, and stormed out to attack the knight. Where Bronsberg fought back, dealing her a fatal blow to the chest, and only after the battle he realized that the ferocious warrior he'd killed was his own betrothed. Well, that upsetting to the point that he fled. Her ghost now defends her castle. In turn, a phantom horseman, the apparition of the Knight of Bronsberg, been seen riding near the gates, apparently seeking forgiveness. And if you visit the castle, excuse me, you'll pass through the gates at its entrance, and a guard, only visible by some folks, has paced out since her brutal death nearly many centuries ago. Some things are just not forgotten. And we got Huska Castle in Chechnya, about 50 kilometers away from Prague. There's a castle that seemingly serves absolutely no visible purpose. Huska Castle, built in the 14th century by the Bohemian ruler Ottokar II. Castle changed hands a number of times, enjoying a Renaissance design in the late 16th century, before falling into disrepair in the 18th century. By the 20th century, the curious legend of Huska Castle had attracted the attention of one particular group of people, Adolf Hitler and his Nazis. Unlike other fortresses of the period, it wasn't meant to house the king. It wasn't near any trading route, and it had no access to water. Defenses were built inside the castle rather than outside. Instead of keeping people out, it looked like the castle was designed to trap them inside. According to legend, this apparently pointless construction was in fact built over the gates to hell. Bottomless hole that existed at Huska for centuries, a gateway for demons and evil beings to enter the earth and terrorize people. The area has long been avoided by the locals, and even to this day the castle is given a wide berth by most. Only the inquisitive dare to set foot inside. Above this mysterious hole is the chapel, dedicated to none other than the leader of God's army, Archangel Michael. Frescoes decorate the wall, but their tales give an insight into what lurks below. They're left-handed demons that claw their way out of the scenes. Before the chapel's construction, the hole was involved in some sinister experiments. Attempts were made to fill the hole in with rocks, but no matter how many rocks were dropped in, it never seemed to be enough. Couldn't fill it up. It's alleged that one duke summoned prisoners who'd been condemned to death and offered them a pardon if they agreed to be lowered into the hole. A lot of folks agreed, of course, expecting to escape their lives. Unfortunately, they were mistaken. There was silence as one man was lowered down, and then they heard his uncontrollable screams echoing up out of the depths. As he was hauled back up, they discovered his hair turned white, and he'd aged several decades. Never found out what was in the hole. It drove the prisoner to madness, and he died a few days later. Huska's castle's secrets don't end there. No. A lot of visitors claim to have experienced supernatural encounters, from the ghost of a woman that stalks the corridors to curious animal-like presences, see stories and supernatural sightings that struck a chord with the Nazis. From 1939 to 1945, Hudnall Castle was home to a number of occult experiments, but the records, unfortunately, were destroyed, and it's not known what happened in the castle. Several skeletons of Nazi officers were discovered during renovations. No sign of what killed them. Well, let's go to Oslo, Norway. Akershus Festning. Built under King Haakon V in 1299 as a castle. Akershus Festning was home to generations of Norwegian rulers and is an important landmark of the Norwegian castle. Its capital, rather. Can't talk. Fortress has withstood a number of sieges and even functioned as a notorious prison where Norway's answer to Robin Hood, Ole Holland, committed suicide in 1848. When it was a prison, part of the castle was dubbed the slavery, where prisoners were subjected to extreme hard labor, causing a lot of deaths. This may be the reason why the fortress has earned the title of Norway's most haunted building. Staff has claimed to hear whisperings and feel strange forces pushing them when they walked along its dark corridors. Others reported disembodied voices and battle screams and sounds of rattling chains and footsteps and sensations of somebody breathing down her neck, and encountered strange smells. Legend has it the former gatekeeper of the castle, Garshall, buried a guard dog alive at the Maiden Tower. This poor dog is now known as the Malkansen, vicious dog. It's said to have returned from death in the form of a vengeful spirit, and if he bites you, you die within 3 months. Other ghosts include the Mantelgersten, a faceless, cloaked woman seen at the Argradaslen, and the horse of a drunken Swedish man who was gunned down when he attempted to storm the castle. But it's the Virgin Tower, the castle's highest tower, that's said to be the most haunted location. If you want to delve further into the caves under the castle, there were never extended tours. Just not during the winter months, when the bats are not to be disturbed in their slumber. Oh no, we must protect the bats by all means. Well, now we have Prijama Castle in Slovenia. It's in Inner Kermiola, Slovenia. This medieval stronghold is built outside a bat-filled cave that's been inhabited by humans since Paleolithic times, and it's said to be riddled with ghosts. I don't know what is wrong with this system. Even with the new equipment, it's doing weird things. Well, the original 13th century castle was damaged from siege and rebuilt in the 1500s, only being nearly destroyed by a massive earthquake in 1511. Current structure is a Renaissance castle built in 1570. But the castle was built as an impregnable safe haven designed to protect the residents from unwanted attacks. Has some rather interesting booby traps, such as holes in the ceiling of the entrance tower, where boiling oil could be poured onto the enemies, in a dungeon where bones have been discovered, a small courtroom, and a torture chamber. According to psychics, the original owner of the castle, Erasmus of Luig, a Robin Hood-style knight in shining armor, eventually murdered by his own home. He still haunts the castle, seeking revenge toward the servant that betrayed him. Aside from Erasmus, been reported footsteps and voices been heard, maybe from the many souls who met their untimely demise at the castle. whether through violent ends or simply the natural disasters of 1511. Found in Denmark. Built about 1215 by the Bishop of Roskilde. Dragsholm Castle's history is as rich and interesting as it is morbid. During the Middle Ages, the castle was overhauled and thoroughly fortified, making it the strongest castle at the time. As a testament to its strength, it stood resolute against the fiercely destructive armies of Christopher, Count of Oldenburg, during the Count's feud of 1534. After the Reformation that followed, Dragsholm's castle fell into the hands of the state. It's transformed into a prison for noble and high-ranking prisoners. Every prisoner got a cell built especially for them. Cells in the northeast tower of the castle were equipped with toilets and windows, which was unique for that time period. Maybe the most infamous prisoner of Dragsholm's castle was James Hepburn, 4th Earl of Boswell, the third husband of Mary, Queen of Scots. Caught in Norway in 1573, the Earl found himself transported to Dragsholm on the order of King Frederick II of Denmark. He was tied to a pillar and provided with only enough food and water to keep him alive. It's alleged he went insane, dying almost 5 years after capture. Witnesses claim to have seen the ghost of the disgraced Earl of Boswell riding into the court on his horse and carriage. Sound of the horse's hooves are audible across the castle. And as well as James Hepburn, there are apparently more than 99 other ghosts that frequent the castle's hallways. The mad squire, a noble-born Dane who died at the castle, has been heard moaning from the dungeons of the castle. There are two ladies who haunt the corridors. One a disgraced daughter of a noble, and the other one a grateful worker. The great lady who'd worked at the castle for years went to work one day complaining of a toothache. Her master had given her some relief for the pain, but tragically the woman died. Still thankful for the help her master had offered her, so she sticks around. The white lady, though, met her maker after disgracing her father. Kalina, was the daughter of a noble, fell in love with a mere commoner and had become pregnant with his child. As evidence of her liaison grew, the father realized the atrocity that she had committed, locked in a room where she died. During the renovations, the skeleton of a woman wearing a white dress was uncovered in the 20th century. That may only have been her. Then we have the Chateau de Brissac. You find that in France. The gloriously ornate Chateau de Brissac has dominated the lower valley for centuries. Initially built as a castle in the 11th century, it was rebuilt in the 1400s, and then again in 1611. But behind the impressive Baroque facade, the hidden secrets of the chateau's tragic past are kept. Double murder took place in the 15th century, and that's haunted residents with the vision of the Green Lady terrifying visitors. After the chateau was rebuilt in the 1400s, Jacques de Brisay, the son of the man who commissioned the redesign, inherited the building. He married a woman named Charlotte, the favorite illegitimate daughter of Charles VII of France. But her marriage apparently wasn't a happy one. Despite having children, her eye wandered, landing on her husband's huntsman, Pierre de Livrerie, and a frenzied affair began. According to legend, Jacques walked in on his wife and her lover, intertwined, and that was the final straw as far as he was concerned. Well, at this point, the records become a little bit murky. Some claim the lovers were murdered on the spot, with over 100 blows from Jacques' sword, delivering them to their messy deaths. Others claim that Jacques waited, murdered the pair separately. According to this story, Charlotte was allegedly killed in the chateau's chapel, brutally strangled by the unhappy husband. Well, hearing of his half-sister's murder, King Louis X flew into a rage. Jacques was arrested and sentenced to death. Before he could meet his end, though, Charles VIII, Louis XI's successor, overturned the accusation, and Jacques survived. To this day, the ghost of Charlotte's been spotted roaming the tower and the chapel. Known as the Green Lady, it's claimed that half her face is already rotted away, blackened corpse with empty eye sockets and no nose. Visitors to the suites that are available for overnight guests have remarked that they've heard dying screams and moans of a murdered couple along the corridors in the early hours of the morning. And that's got to be very disruptive to sleep, let me tell you. Well, the chateau offers bed and breakfast with a tour included, if you're brave enough to stay the night. And we got the Chateau de Treforges. It's in Treforges, France. Known as the Chateau de Barbe Bleu, Bluebeard's Castle. This was where the infamous serial killer, Gilles de Rais, committed his atrocious crimes. He was a lord and a knight. He was Giles de Montgomery Laval, was a companion in arms of Joan of Arc during the 100 Years' War. Was awarded the title Marshal of France. After he retired from the military, he quickly spent all his wealth on frivolity and was accused of dabbling in the occult. Attempted to summon a demon in the lower half of the chateau, but it appears he wasn't particularly good at sorcery. Rumors began circulating he was responsible for the disappearance of a large number of children among the Treforges area during the 1430s. Finally, in 1440, a violent dispute with a clergyman verified the rumors and his true nature as a pedophile and serial killer who had kidnapped and raped a number of young children, mostly boys. Only to have them killed and tortured became evident. Ecclesiastical investigation led to the exposure of his crimes, of which he eventually confessed. He said they had begun in 1432, after the death of his grandfather. His cousins Gilles de Sillé and Roger de Briqueville arrested him assisted him in at least one kidnapping, with Gilles de Sillé being enlisted to murder children after they were assaulted. But it was his bodyguard, Poteau, who was most often his accomplice, later betraying him in court and giving a graphic description of his master's atrocities, including terror they inflicted on his juvenile victims and the torture they underwent. The parents of the missing children, witnesses who had seen his servants dumping the children's bodies, and his own cohort also testified at the trial, and following threat of torture, he himself came clean and was sentenced to death. In his own confession, he reportedly admitted that when said children were dead, he'd kiss them, and those who had the most handsome limbs and heads he held up to admire them, had their bodies cruelly cut open, and took delight at the sight of their inner organs. Very often, when the children were dying, he sat on their stomachs and took pleasure in seeing them die and laughed the whole time. Well, he was found guilty of sodomy and necrophilia and pedophilia and the slaughtering of over 100 children, and sentenced to death in 1440 by hanging and burning. Well, like most medieval criminals, we can't say for sure whether or not he was guilty or just set up by the church in order for them to gain his wealth and his power. Most historians do believe he was guilty due to his own confession. And today the Chateau de Treforges is believed to be haunted by this vengeful spirit. Well, we've got quite a number of stories still to go. Getting ready for this show, I collected the stories of over 100 haunted locations. Let's go to Japan, Himeji Castle. First founded in 1333. It's commonly also known as the White Heron Castle, because its elegant, distinctive white facade is said to resemble a heron soaring through the sky. Despite its tranquil appearance, it was designed for war. The castle boasts a unique defensive system involves multitudes of loopholes, allowing defenders to rain arrows down on their attackers. Well, there's a perplexing maze of paths around its keep and walkways. They actually go back on themselves. Meanwhile, the distinctive Carrara ceramic tiles on the roof are often said to be imbued with magical properties, intended to keep evil spirits at bay and protect the building's inhabitants from attack. But despite its magical protections, Himeji is also said to be the location of one of the most famous Japanese ghost stories, that of Okiku and Noel. Now, there's several versions of this legend. One of the most common is that the beautiful maidservant Okiku, called the Eye of her master, Tessen Yoama, tried to make her his mistress behind the wife's back. But when she refused, he hid one of his wife's precious gold plates, which Okiku had the honored job of looking after, and told the unfortunate girl that if she didn't agree to be his mistress, he'd tell her mistress that she had stolen the plate. When able to find the hidden plate and terrified of her mistress's anger, the distraught Okiku threw herself down the castle well, which confounded Tessen, who decided not to return the plate and continued to blame Okiku for its absence. And this has become one of the best-known ghost stories. Shortly after her suicide, she was said to begin to haunt the castle and to be seen dressed in white with her hair hanging loose and dismembered hands and feet, dragging herself out of the well, then making her way on all fours to the cupboard where the 9 remaining gold plates were kept. When she got to them, she'd desperately count them and then scream in anguish when she reached the spot where the 10th missing plate should have been. Well, unsurprisingly, Tassan was driven mad with guilt and she refused to return the stolen plate, with the consequence that Okiku is said to still haunt the castle to this day. Well, you can take a 15 to 20-minute stroll from Amaji Station to the castle down Otomiori Street, or actually get on a bus. Either way, the trip is definitely worth taking. And then finally, the last story we're going to do today comes from Beijing, China, the Forbidden City. This extensive former residence of China's imperial family had 600 years of secrets, being closed to outsiders during the Ming and Qing dynasty, only added to the mystery of this palace city. 1421, Emperor Yongle said to have ordered the massacre of nearly 3,000 people he believed were conspiring to kill him. His favorite concubines were spared, though, but all were ordered to be executed upon his death. His son, Emperor Hongji, attempted to move the court away from the Forbidden City, but died without achieving his aim, which, of course, sparked rumors that the palace was cursed. It's no surprise that visitors have reported gruesome sights of blood and piles of phantom dead bodies, a ghostly lady pursued by samurai, and the sounds of screaming, clashing swords, and crying. Today, the once Forbidden City is a museum full of artifacts from both the Ming and the Qing dynasties. And we're going to do, we actually have time to do one more. For this one, we go to Madrid, Spain. The Palacio de Linares. This 19th century palace is known for its sweeping marble staircases, French-inspired architecture, and ghostly apparitions. The first Marquis of Linares built a palace as his residence, and it's said he and his wife still haunt their former home. According to legend, a couple of half-siblings, unbeknown to them before their marriage. On discovering this, they vowed to live in chastity, but their passion for one another was too strong, and they actually had a daughter. To avoid scandal, they had her murdered and bricked up behind the palace walls, with the couple dying out of grief and committing suicide months later. And the peanut gallery is tuning up. Now, of course, this is just conjecture, There's no evidence the couple were related nor they had any children. Nevertheless, the myth persists, and the palace is said to be haunted not only by the couple, but by their child, who's heard singing nursery rhymes and calling out for her parents. Well, on that note, we're going to cut it off today. I'm still getting things adjusted for this new equipment. So if it's a little less than my normal hour, I apologize. But in future shows, you will get every minute you're entitled to. Okay. Well, on that note, we come to the end of today's show. We'll be back tomorrow when we'll talk about more haunted locations. Until then, Ken Hudnall for the Ken Hudnall Show saying have a truly great evening.